What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo. And on this episode of the PGA Show, got my guy Hoopster here with me. As always, going to break down all things for the Texas Children's Houston Open. Going to go through all the roster construction, the ownership. We'll bring up SaberSim. We'll go through all of that and more. But Hoopster, I'll bring you in. We're back for another week of golf. Back in the booth. I had a nice weekend with my boy Rio. Shout out the Hebrew Cheetah out there in Arizona with everybody. It was a fun time. Got a lot of good things that we're bringing back. But what's going on, man? How you doing?
Yeah, interesting week in terms of PGA DFS, where you just really don't see something like this. We talk about like a top-heavy sort of field. Like, this is as extreme as it could possibly get. You got the two best golfers in the world kind of creating a tier of their own up top. I mean, I think last year was Scotty by himself, and then Rory was in that second group. Well, Rory has kind of outplayed Scotty lately. So, I mean, they're definitely 1 and 2. In just like overall golf. And then there's a big gap. Well, all those guys that are in that next tier and probably tier 3 aren't at this event. So it's Rory, Scotty up top. And in terms of DraftKings pricing, you go straight to JJ Spawn. It's very unique. I mean, I've been playing this for, I don't know, since PGA DFS came out. I don't even know how long ago it was. Long ass time ago, probably 10 years, 8, 9, 10 years, somewhere in that range. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. So it's very, very unique. It's definitely very unique. So that's one thing I'll say right out of the gate about this week.
Yeah, I love it, actually. And I kept going back and forth on it. I said I would sort of clarify it once I got to the show. I thought they did a really good job. However, again, it's not really about who deserves what price. That we were going to have a laughing stock throughout the show as we go through some of these people at these price tags. There's already the Rory conversation. Why is he $1,000 less than Scotty? It's, if you go off the most recent events, it should be Rory up there, and everyone's going through these different phases. But with 3-1 and 6-1 odds in the betting market, and then like 30-1 or worse after that, I love that they obliterated the 10K range. Nobody there. Did not bring the 5K range in. So I said it in our Discord yesterday over at ShipItNation.com. It's like Scotty or Rory, Scotty and Rory, because keep in mind, with no 5K range, it doesn't mean it's easy, but I'm saying that means there's real golfers in the 6K range. Like, there's definitely names when we get down there, we'll name a bunch, but it's kind of like a shotgun approach. Like, see what you spray and pray, see what you can get down there. But with no 10K range, then it's like the 9K guys feel ugly. Like, people look at like Spawn, Rye, Davis, Thompson. Don't say anything bad about Sungjae, of course, but there's guys in there that they're probably thinking about and saying, what the hell's going on here? So there is a ton of different game theory to it this week, and I like it for that reason. I think it's going to be a good slate, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, they've made it hard to play both of them, which is good. Like, if they were both $1,000 less, which they've done on slates somewhat similar to this in the past, if Scotty was 11-7 and Rory was 10-7, then those guys together would be very popular and very highly owned. But if you want to play both of them this week, you got $6,400 for your last 4 spots. So it's nearly impossible. I mean, the odds of those two being on the optimal together are very low. Even probably even if they finish 1-2, right? I mean, even if they finish let's say they finish 1-2 in this event, like, how do you find the right combination of an average salary of $6,400 for 4 golfers? So there's definitely a world where they finish 1-2 and they're probably not on the winner. Right?
Yeah, like that's also that last year, you probably wouldn't get to it because of what it was. So like last year, if it was what, I don't know what the exact pricing was last year, but you had Chad Ramey, Toasty, David Skins, and someone like Davis Riley or Victor Perez in the mix. I don't know. So my point being, you can do that and just get a bunch of combinations like that, but it's going to be tricky because not only do you need them to come through, we still seemingly never really get that, right? We're always looking for events where we're getting that out of these guys, and we just don't. Like, if you go back, Rory won, Scotty 20th. When Rory won the first time, Scotty was 9th, and it was kind of like a backdoor thing where he was first. That was his first one coming back from the injury. He just kind of played horrible, but finished top 10 still. So you never really see them in the mix together all the way up to where you would need that. And the other thing is just because of all the guys, if you really don't, if you have disrespect for all these guys in the 9K range, well, then it's also tricky because if you're thinking they're all going to do bad, some are going to miss the cut, whatever that might be, then you're not certain on what Scotty or Rory need. And that's where the age-old thing we always talk about comes in. Well, for almost 13K, Scotty has to win. Absolutely not. Like, literally not, because it doesn't mean if Scotty doesn't win, it doesn't mean Rory does. If Scotty doesn't win, it doesn't mean Spawn, Riley, all these guys come through instead. There's just a ton of different ways that guys can get there. So there's a lot of game theory that goes into this slate, and I like that for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and yeah, it does add that dynamic though, for sure, where even like people think like if you play a Scotty or Rory, they got to finish in this place or higher. This week, especially, you can throw that out the window because of the drop off, like just the massive drop off, and the ownership's going to drop off too after those guys as well. So these guys in the 9K probably aren't very popular. So let's say like I don't know, random guy, Taylor Pendrith wins this week at 8,500. Scotty finishes 10th. And then a bunch of these guys in the 9K range don't really do shit. Like Scotty still can be optimal. And that just definitely goes into the, probably next conversation. And I'm sure a lot of people will be running through this in their head if they're playing multiple lineups. You have one of Scotty or Rory in every single lineup this week. And it's easy to do one. Obviously, it's not easy to do two. So I think a lot of people will be thinking along that mindset of, hey, I'm going to make a rule to play at least one of those guys in every lineup. And what's their combined ownership this week? Like it's gonna be massive. So like that's not going to be an uncommon thing. But then it is really hard to imagine this event playing out and one of those guys not being on the optimal lineup. So it's a game theory week. It's fun. It makes it interesting because it's a slate. Really, again, I can't think back to a time in at least recently in the last 4 or 5 years where we've had something like this, just a clear 1-2 and then just a massive drop off.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. Like I said a couple times, but I just think that was the interesting part. Is like every week you can find the game theory angle of this, that, and the other. And if you have when we used to have RIP match play, one of the best slates you could possibly have, where there was literally.
How do you get rid of that? By the way, man, that's insane. Yeah, just absolutely wild.
But I'm saying like it's different because it's obvious that there's stuff like that. When they do something like this with the price, though, it does to me it's way better from a DFS perspective. That's obviously what we focus on. That's what we're all about. It's not the picks, the plays. It's looking at the process, thinking about the puzzle, building it all out, and going through it. This really is a lot more of that than you would find on a typical slate, like something where you said it could have been 11-7 and 10-5. And then it's just more annoying to mess around with. And this gives us a ton of different angles we can approach it from. And I will say, like the Rory thing, obviously the players, quite a different tournament, but it felt like he tried everything he could do to lose that event. He literally got to the playoff with Spawn. And even then Spawn just drenches it, second playoff hole into that aggregate on 17 there. So, but it was like Danny Walker, Davis Thompson, Jake Knapp, Aaron Ryan, no disrespect. These guys are 14th, 10th, 14th, 14th. Like it wasn't a murderer's row. Aaron Rye 14th, Alex Smalley 14th, Ryder. They're all playing really good golf. You do have to factor that into this week, but just saying it does seem hard to imagine a world where it's not one of those two up there on Sunday. And there's ways that they can be up there and still not be the chat's going on about Minwoo Lee. Minwoo Lee could win. And then Scotty could still be in that lineup with him. And it was a Scotty Minwoo lineup that got there and didn't need all the punts at the bottom. And you still get it there that way. So a lot of people think that when you anchor it that way, it sort of screws you or it can't get you to the top. You can still do it that way. Obviously, you just need to pick the right second guy in that instance and then still have them find their way to the top. Anything else you want to talk to when it comes to Rory and Scotty specifically?
No, nothing. I do. What do you think the ownership is between the two? Like, do you think Scotty still remains higher owned? Because I think this is definitely the week where it's probably Rory, where salary probably means something. The $1,000 does go a long way. The 6K range is pretty gross. I think it's at least tied or Rory has more ownership this week.
Very, very possible. The projections are closer than they usually are. The projections do still like Scotty more, but then you have to factor in the $1,000. So, and the difference of roster construction and all of that. So I don't disagree with you. And I think you can see them both over 30, right? That's kind of how I'm seeing it right now is the early stuff. It looks like you could see them both over 30 just because there's so many ways to build with them. So definitely think that's the case. Like Josh says here, I'm still fading Scotty this week, been fading him all year. No problem with that. If you haven't been in on him, you can definitely do it.
Hopefully he didn't do it last year.
Yeah. That would be the difference. Our guy B-Wald, shout out to B-Wald, said Plain Lands Thursday, boots on the ground. We've had a ton of good stuff with guys in the chat. Shout out to our guy OG on the whole Florida swing. He was hitting us up every single day with updates, and he's friends with Jacob Bridgman's caddy. So he had all the updates. He was even I don't know if he was supposed to be sharing those screenshots of the text, but he was texting with them and sending those across. So hey, it's free world. We love to see it. But now B-Wald's going to be there and maybe more on some boots on the ground stuff in the future here. But love to see that. What else? Anything else here in the chat? No. So, all right, let's talk about the weather for a second here, because did you check out the weather for this week, Hoop?
I did not. I'm assuming it's not as exciting as last week.
I don't know. There's going to be some conversations around it as we get closer. It looks like, again, we got our guy B-Wald there. Maybe he can get us some updates early on. But Wednesday doesn't look crazy. It's right when it starts on Thursday. You see a little bit of rain coming in around 10 o'clock through 1 o'clock. And then the winds pick up in the afternoon. Friday morning, more rain. And then, kind of steady throughout the day, just normal temps, normal everything else. But just thought that was interesting. Any comments on the weather from you?
I hope there's some sort of advantage this week, because I think a lot of people are going to be too afraid to properly pull the trigger. Like last week, it was potentially a clear advantage. Now, it did not play out as extreme as everyone thought, but it was still close to like half a stroke in favor of AM PM. Now, the issue was that the winner ended up coming from the opposite side. They're able to battle through a little bit of tougher conditions to get to the top, but it's like there was a potential clear advantage. I don't know the proper analogy, I guess, the way to look at it. It'd be like if you're playing a basketball game and one team, the rim's wider for one of the teams potentially. Like going into it, there's a chance that team B was going to have 2 inches of a wider basketball rim. Like, would you play the guys on that team that are going to be shooting on that rim? Like, hell yeah, would I be going all in? And to golf, like there is in DFS, there's really not more of a distinct potential edge than a weather edge in golf. And we talked about it on this show. What is the one thing we said? Even if it remains true all week where it looks like there's this advantage, not as many people are going to pull the trigger on the all-in play than you think. I said I will be going all in. I posted in the Discord. You saw the numbers come out. There are 4 150 maxers that win all in. I was one of them that win all in. I will take that opportunity every time it's presented to me, 100%, knowing that not as many people are going to do it. Now, if I thought 75% of the people are going to play 6-0, play the advantage 6-0, then yeah, maybe I start to reconsider. So much lower than anyone thought, and it's exactly what we said on the show. I would do it again this week if it was offered up.
Yeah, I was going here to Steven, actually. Like, again, this is pure results oriented. I literally don't care at all about anything of the actual result. We're playing the edge going in. I was actually shocked. I will say this. Like, we talk about all the time living in a bubble. I thought it would be a way higher 6-0 percentage than 23% or 22%, whatever it was. The 6-0 percentage itself. Shout out to Skyhook DFS. Skyhook DFS. So he posted out Skylar Hoke, and he'd said that I think it was 23.48 or something. I really thought there was going to be a much higher percent. Like I thought maybe the bubble popped a little and we'd get 40-50% 6-0s, like because it was on paper. And our guy DJ always talks about too, incorporating the temperatures. And in the morning, even the temps were like the first morning was better temps than the next day's temperature, on top of the weather and that. So like you said, you pushed all in. That was 75% leverage on the field. If you call it 25, the field did 6-0, you were 100% 6-0. And that's how you got your leverage.
Yeah, and the other thing in terms of the ownership, a lot of people are talking about, the ownership is so much higher. The ownership was really only higher on 2 guys, and it was the 2 most expensive guys, Fleetwood and Sepp Straka. Everyone else maybe like 1 or 2 more percentage points, but it was Sepp Straka and Tommy Fleetwood that got all the increase. Nobody else got the massive increase. So, man, definitely stand by the play. And again, if it was offered up on this slate, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, who said this? Shout out to Andrew here. He said, isn't Texas known? Texas always seems to have these massive wave splits. I've made money on that in the past, and this is where it sort of started for me, of where it was my common thing that I always talk about. It's not always a weather wave edge. There's just you can just play a wave, right? It doesn't have to be weather. You'll get naturally contrarian lineups. You're doing stuff that others aren't. You just saw it. They're not even thinking about it. And even on weeks they probably should be thinking, or they are thinking about, but not as much as we thought, only 23 or 24% pushed all in. Because like Hoop said, they just can't get away from it. They got to play these other guys. So it worked last week for everybody that had Hovland, JT, those guys. But just to note it, that's something that you'd look for in the future. You don't get many opportunities in golf, and it just didn't go that way. To Hoop's rim analogy, I mean, I'm sure there's other analogies, but just to note it, it's like they had the rim that way, but they just still bricked their shots. They still in and out, and it just is still bricked. They had the advantage, it just didn't happen. And in the end, that was the difference. So on to this week. I mean, the weather will come up. I'm doing the show tomorrow with Mayo on the Mayo Media Network early morning. He'll want to talk weather, go through it. DGen will cover it again as usual tomorrow night. He'll go through all that stuff and more. So we'll get to that at that point. Do you want to bring up SaberSim and go through that real quick?
Yeah, I just did the first dry run, and actually pretty surprising what what it's spit out here to start. So it's definitely a good talking point, a good way to start, because I just naturally thought in my head that we would just get a shit ton of Rory and a shit ton of Scotty, and then it would just kind of mix in a bunch of other guys. But man, we're pretty spread out, and this is Sabres projections, their initial projections, and their initial ownership. I just changed these two guys by fractional points to make it work. But despite 91% 91 projection for Scotty, 83 for Rory, then it falls off a cliff to Rye. On the dry run, only 32% Rory and 20% Scotty, and it's very spread out. I mean, look at it, 25%, 22, 22, 20, 18%, 19%, 19%, 18, 17, super spread out. So I'm pretty surprised, honestly. Like I thought for sure we would just be getting a ton of Scotty Rory, but I'm guessing the reason we're not is because it's going to be there's very uncomfortable plays when you go down low. Even if you're just playing one of them, you still have to take a look down low. And our highest owned 6K guy doesn't show up until Matt Wallace. We're getting 5%. So that's our first 6K guy. So that's why we're getting this sort of build. But I'm pretty surprised, I'd say.
So I'll say two things on it real quick, just and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but this would be the point here. And it's not like I'm thinking these 6K guys are going to be super chalk, because I don't think they are. It's more of, I will say though, I think people are really comfortable clicking 6K guys if they're hand building this week. There's tons of names down there that people have interest in that they'll try and make it work. I think this tells a story to us though, Hoop, of that's why I say no matter how many lineups you have, having an optimizer, especially something like SaberSim, is extremely important, because it really gives you the eye. Like, look at this eye test. What it tells me is that, the Scotty and Rory lineups are definitely are very risky. And even if you did get the perfect storm of those guys together, you may not get the stuff at the bottom correct on top. So you'd have to commit a lot to it, and you could still come out where you're not coming out ahead. It's going to be random, low-owned guys. It's going to make sense on paper. I'm just saying that tells me it's tricky. The other thing is when you look at the odds.
I just want to add on to that point real quick. I pulled up our Rory lineups. We have 0 Scotty Rory lineup. So just wanted to note that.
No, that's a proven. That's exactly what I'm saying. So that's the point. And the second part would be when you look at it from an odds perspective this week, once you go past about 7,500 on DraftKings, the odds drop off. For like, if you're looking at top 20 odds, top 40 odds, whatever odds, it's not really that good. So with the more guys you're putting below 7,500 in your lineup, what I'm seeing and what this tells me in the data right now is that you obviously are taking a much riskier stance when it gets to that point. There's only really, I see like 4 or 5 guys in the low 7s that have good top 20 odds. And so that's some of these things when they're putting them together with projections and all that, it's factoring that in. So, that's why you don't need to double count. I think that tells the story for roster construction right now, at least.
Yeah, I will push back on one thing though. Maybe you have some hidden gems or some guys, but I'm just not seeing many clicks in the 6K that people are going to feel comfortable with. I just went through quickly. I didn't dive deep or anything, but I'm just not seeing a ton down there that people are going to be like, oh yeah, I feel really comfortable playing this guy.
I don't think you feel really comfortable. I'm saying that the names are not no-name golfers though down there.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
You know who a lot of
are. Your definition of no-name golfers and mine might be a little different. I just don't see much, man. I just don't see it. So I guess.
Yeah, like I said, they're not going to be popular at all. I'm saying when you get to it though, and someone's deciding between, do I put in, I don't know, let's use a random example here, Ricky Castillo or Ryan Gerard or something like that, or they can go down to 6K and play Meisner, Fisk, Fishburne, Wallace, Hayden Springer, Adam Hadwin, Grayson Sigg is, all these guys that I see popping, they're not going to get to a good number, and they're probably not good plays. That's my point. But people like Toasty finished well here before, CT Pan, Adam Svensson, Ben Coles, you know a lot of these names. Mark Hubbard, your boy's down there at 65. You only have to pick one to really make it work. But I just think it shows us that Scotty Rory lineups aren't going to be popular at all. Because
I don't even know how you could do. I mean, really, I don't even know how you could do it, though. I mean, I might have 0. I mean, I'm always aggressive, too, when it comes to roster construction. But, man, you got to get 4 dart throws essentially right. It's like you got Scotty, you got
Goliath to meet up at the top.
Yeah, so you need the big dogs to get all the way up to the top, and then you literally need to go 4 for 4 on guys that are like 500 to 1 to win this event. Like, you need them to make the cut and do something, too. So just doesn't seem viable. Like, I guess now, like, to the bigger talking point, is there a chance that keeps their ownership in check, Rory and Scotty? I guess that's probably the big question. Is there any chance? Because when you first pull up the slate and start thinking, like, dude, these guys are going to be super, super popular because there's no one else to play. But the lack of guys at the bottom and the fact that we ran this dry run and we're getting none of those guys down there, like, is there any chance like Rory and Scotty get held in check a little bit?
Just depends on what you think the check is. Like, I still think 30 happens. Maybe it's 30-25 and whichever.
Yeah, so I'm saying like more like when I looked at this, I was like, these guys are going to be both at least like 40% owned. But like, you can't really do
the under on that number for sure, just based on how it shakes out.
Okay.
But
so
the tricky part is there's nobody in the 9K that the projections or the people want to play. Like, maybe.
So that's the question then. So that's the big question then. Do people say, I don't care, I'm jamming Scotty and Rory and I'm just going to avoid the 9K range? Or do they say, I'm going to play Scotty and Rory, but it's going to be held in check a little bit because I want to play some of those guys in the 9K? That's probably the big question this week. What do people do in the 9K?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think the 8Ks are just as good as the 9Ks. Like, I could see people still going to, like, shout out to Jagerbombs, last year's killer. And the worst was he didn't even really win. Scotty just lost. Scotty missed a short putt to keep it rolling, and then Spawn goes on to be the winner. Jager goes on to be the winner. But Jager, Michael Kim, Pendrith, Jacob Bridgman, Alex Smalley, these are all guys people like. But guess what? They're cheap enough that you could play 2 or 3 of them and still get in there with Rory, at least two easily with Rory or Scotty. So I could see like Rory, Bridgman, Smalley being a place where people go to. And it looks like when people go to the 9Ks, it's Rye, Davis Thompson, maybe pick your poison on a couple of others. But for the most part, definitely think people are going to still be more likely to click one of those guys up top. And early ownership has that pretty clear. Like, I think even on our end, it shows probably higher than it should be, but it definitely will be updated, and that's my take right now, at least. So I'm with you, but it'll be under the 40% area you're talking about. 30-25 is more what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And then you go in the 9K range, and like, we got no JJ Spawn. It's a pretty low projection, obviously, at 60, basically 64. So we got none of him. We got a little bit of Rye. I know a lot of people like Min Woo this week. We got one Min Woo lineup. Moderate Davis Thompson, a little bit of Sung Jae. Tony Finau showing up though, 25%, because his projection, it's the highest projection outside of Rye in this range. Wyndham Clark at 9,100. We got 17% of him. And then Jason Day, we got a decent chunk. So we are getting a decent chunk of the 9K range on this initial dry run, which I think is pretty interesting. But again, that's probably the reason why these Scotty and Rory numbers are not showing up higher. It's only 32% Rory and 20% Scotty. And it's probably because we are getting these 9K guys. Scotty in a mid 9K still leaves 6,900. Yeah, so that's probably a popular type build. But
for back to your Rory thing, though, that's why I brought it up. And we even show it on our exposures we're getting on the run. But this would make me think that while most probably project Scotty to have higher ownership, that money really does save you on Rory, and literally 2 wins recently, including the Players. So I think people are just going to continue on that path and go from there. So that would make sense to me, that Rory and then see where they go from there. But even Rory in a 9K fits better than Scotty in a 9K. But then people will also play Rory and 2 8K guys, if not more, right? So I think that's possible as well.
Yeah, for me personally in this 9K range, I do like the Min Woo play a little bit. I guess I don't mind Tony Finau. I don't love him, but don't mind him. Wyndham Clark, maybe a little bit. Jason Day, not super interested. So for me personally in this range, like Min Woo, maybe some Finau, maybe some Wyndham Clark, but I'm not going to be looking to like jam these guys. Like, I'm going to be siding on more Scotty and Rory, like, than this number, the 32 on Rory. I want to be higher than that, definitely higher than 20% Scotty, which we're getting here. So that means I'm gonna have to come down on these guys a little bit. So I'll have some of those dudes, but not anywhere near, I don't think, what we're getting on this initial run. So it's kind of my take.
What do we got for Rory McIlroy lineups? What do we got for Rory and Aaron Rye lineups together for that start? Because I think Rye, with his recent form and his history here, I definitely could see him being a guy that drops in next. What do we get when it comes to that?
0. We're getting no Rory Rye lineups.
That's interesting. Okay.
I guess the next guy is Tony Finau with Rory. We're getting 10% of him and then 10% of Wyndham Clark.
So is there a Finau lineup there? Sorry, click back. When you go to the Rory Finau lineup, just scroll down to that for a second and see what we see.
Let's see if we can find one. I'm sure there's a way to search it, but
yeah.
Finau.
Just trying to think of like what that looks like when you're seeing some of these builds.
There it is. Yeah. So Rory, Finau, Highsmith, Rasmus, Olsen, and Matt Wallace.
So to me, that's very possible. Like, it's interesting that we're not getting any Rory Rye because Finau just goes up $600. Highsmith comes down to the low sevens.
Oh, there it is. You just click. Learn something here. So you can click both the names. So here are all the.
What you were doing. I was like, why isn't he just doing the same thing twice?
I didn't know who would unclick the Rory thing, but we learned something here. So there you go. So you can double click. So these are all the teams.
But yeah, just that shows it. Like that to me is not that bad. You are using the one. Some of them don't even use the 6K guy, but if they do, it's like Matt Wallace at 6,900. So we'll see what the ownership shakes out like. But I think that's interesting. You talked about Minwoo, my guy Sung Jae, Tony Finau. There's options in this range. So maybe that's why too, right? People are comfortable with it. But I definitely think getting into the next range, 8K range, is where people have interest, right? You look at Bridgman, you look at Smalley. Some of the other guys pop for odds, but like Michael Kim, where people might go right back to him. So what are you thinking here in this 8K range? Because it definitely looks like people starting with Rory could just drop down to that range, no problem.
Yeah, I think what you kind of mentioned earlier is true. Like, people are going to look at this 8K range and say, you know what, there's not much of a difference between these 8K guys and these 9K guys. And in a lot of cases, the 8K guys are playing better than the 9K guys. So you know what, I'll just save some money and come down here. So I do think the ownership overall is higher. You talked about Jaeger a little bit. Michael Kim was fine last week. Wasn't great. Where did he finish? Let's see. Yeah, 28th. So I mean, he's continued to be solid outside of the one bad performance at the Players, and it was really just a bad round one. Like, he bounced back fine round two. So people are gonna feel comfortable with him. People always feel comfortable with Pendrith. Bridgman's been playing well. People always like to play McNeely. Smalley's been playing well. And then I think like Sahith is a guy that people are always willing to just take a chance on. Like, he always comes in higher owned than we're anticipating. So I think you do see more ownership here, and it's probably a lot of Scotty lineups go Scotty, and we'll see Scotty, and then down to like 8K. Yep. So look at Scotty Bridgman, Scotty Thigala. Man, I'm right on with this shit. Scotty Smalley, Scotty Dietrich, Scotty Grazerman, Michael Kim, Thigala, Matt McNeil. So almost every single Scotty team, or actually everyone I've looked at so far, has Scotty in the 8K. And you're not, the reason they're doing this is because look, you go Scotty 8K and you really don't have to dig super deep. You don't have to dig deep. You're stopping at 7K. You're stopping at 72. This has a Finau, Scotty Finau, but then you got two 6K guys. So that's the reason why you are going to see a lot of Scotty 8K, just because of roster construction purposes. So it is interesting. I think those Rory lineups are taking probably more like the 9K guys. Yep, Rory, Jason Day. This one goes to McNeely. This one's balanced. And so maybe that's off a little bit. But the initial thought on Scotty remains true. Scotty in a lot of 8K. For me personally, definitely, we talked about Michael Kim last week. If you've been playing him, I think you just keep playing him. I've been playing him. I'm going to stay on that. Pendrith is always interesting to me because when he plays well, he can win golf tournaments. And I think this is definitely a field where if he's playing well, he can ship it. Bridgman, Smalley, really, really like Smalley. And I'd take a chance on Thigala and probably Mitchell. So I do have guys that I'm interested in here. And I know if I come here, I can play all these guys with Scotty and Rory lineups and still not be strapped for cash. So I do like the 8K range quite a bit.
Yeah, I think like Jaeger, winning here last year, the Michael Kim, Bridgman, Smalley, that's sort of the guys I hear being brought up a lot. And like you said, I do agree on the Thigala thing. A lot of people just play him to play him. So there is some outsiders that you can play in this range that, again, they're not really outsiders. I don't hear people talking about them as much, but Siwoo Kim, Dietrich, good here last year, good last week. Like he could be a possibility. He's a guy.
Seems like Siwoo just probably has to get squeezed here a little bit. You got some names above him and like Finau and Wyndham Clark and Jason Day. Then you have appealing options below him. The previous winner, Jaeger, Kim, Pendrith, Bridgman, like he just has to come in low. Showing 6 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that even comes down lower. So I do like that call.
Yeah, we're only getting 12 there. The thing about Siwoo, what's interesting is like he actually did finish 17th here, 35th here the last couple of years. His recent results are 19th, 24th, 21st, 12th. Like they're not going to pop off the page, but it's not that much different. And we know what that means out on the tour. If it's, 2 strokes here, 1 stroke there, like that's the difference of then it looks really good on paper. So I always look for those type of options. And at high 8s, he could be a little bit more squeezed than, like you mentioned, where people want to go Kim, Bridgman, Smalley down at the bottom, Thigala maybe a little bit. Dietrich, who I brought up, the chat followed it up and said, yeah, so he was 2nd here last year, 22nd last week. He reminds me of Pendrith. To your point, it's like he's good enough, and when he's playing well, that's when you're taking on the variance of the boom bust. But it's not that bad when he's at 8,600. It's basically $300 more, just under than the average price point on DraftKings. Yeah. So something like that, I'm interested in taking shots. If I go in the when I go in the 8K range, I should say not if, when I go in the 8K range, I do like taking some shots on different guys in here because we've seen how the builds are going to look regardless of how people are building. The other thing I think about Hoop is we used to do this all the time and people have gone away from it lately. But if Scotty's that expensive and it clearly hates the 6Ks and all the Scotty lineups are adding an 8K guy in, why not just look and segue to the next range? Why not just look for Scotty and 5 7K guys? This, by the way, is still a big 7K range. They brought it back up. It's 43 guys. So there's going to be no way that it doesn't just spread out completely. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be a few guys in here that get a little bit of extra ownership, sure. But even then, it's tough to really peg who they'll exactly be right now. But my point is, not many of these guys are going to have ownership at all. And you could just run Scotty with 5 7s or Rory with 5 7s, or if most Rory lineups have a 9K, get more 8Ks in there with 7s and things like that. So there's a ton of good ways to build this week, even if you are going all the way up to the top. And then obviously we skipped over it a little mentioning it, but if you could find a build in the 9Ks that had 2 or 3 9K guys, that would be another unique build just out of the gates that I'm thinking of right away. Just it's not going to feel great because you're not going to get up. You're not going to make up that win equity up top with a 3-1 or 6-1 winner. That's just what it is, or odds, I should say.
Yeah, it'd be difficult. So it's a massive range because you got the guys up top and no 5K, which when we've had these guys up top, they've kind of added the 5K. So this range is huge, and ownership will naturally get spread out. Guys that are projected based on SaberSim's ownership to get ownership: Taylor Moore. These are guys over 10. Taylor Moore, Ben Griffin, Highsmith, Kevin Hughes right there, Kitayama right there, Andrew Novak right there, Rasmus Højgaard a little below 10, coming down, Victor Perez at like 7%, but no one is really coming in at a super high number based on the lineups this dry run. But we got 20% Griffin, we got 13% Highsmith. I'm just kind of rattling the guys that are 10 or more. Got Patrick Rogers 10%. We got Kitayama 12%. We got Novak at 18. Sam Stevens we got at 10, and he is above, projected to be above 10. He's showing at 13. And this Norgard Muller.
Novak projected to be? Sorry, you said Novak?
Yeah, they're showing 14% projected ownership. We got him at 19 in 19% of our lineups.
Miscut 34th, miscut 42nd, 53rd here last year, like 100-1 odds, and he's like people so far like he has like the chalk in this range.
Yeah, people like him. Yeah, Thornbury. That is the thing. Like in this range, like if you're not feeling comfortable with anyone, you can find multiple pivots within $200 above or $200 below. I mean, there is a ton. Olesen as well. We're getting 15% Olesen. But if come up, like for me, guys that stand out, like Highsmith has been playing well. Kevin Hughes, always a guy that I think is interesting to play. He's kind of got that boom bust potential where he can just kind of have these nuke rounds where he goes 5 under, 6 under. Jake Knapp, I think Jake Knapp's one of those situations. If you've been playing him, play him. If you haven't been playing him, probably don't play him. He did finally miss the cut last week. He was on the bad side of the weather. I'm fine going back to him. Davis Riley, I think, is an interesting name. And again, no way that the ownership is super high, but he's been playing well. 4 straight made cuts and had the 7th place finish last week, had the 38th at the Players. So he's been playing very well. And he is, what's the price? He's 7,600, not showing a ton of ownership. I think he's totally fine. Nick Taylor, I love 7,500. I just think he's probably just a better golfer than a lot of these guys in this range. Seamus Power, I kind of feel like Seamus Power is one of your boys. You're on him. I'd say more than the field, and he was good last week, right? He got the job done, I believe. What did he do last week?
I forget his exact finish, but I was definitely I play some Seamus Power, 8th place.
8th, yeah. So I'd be fine going back to him. Echeverria was up there last week. Lee Hodges is a guy I always kind of like. He talked about the Novak thing. Norgard Muller. He's I believe he had a good finish last week too. What did he do? He missed the cut. That's definitely not a good finish. But he has had some made cuts recently. Gary Woodland, I don't mind playing him. Rico Hoey, disappointing last week. I guess the one thing though for sure is there's just so many guys in this range that you can potentially play. Eric Cole's down there at 7K. 43 golfers. There's two things that we know. No one's going to be very popular. Ownership is going to be spread out. If you're looking for a pivot anywhere, there's just multiple guys all around them. So, a lot of solid plays in this range.
Yeah, I said this. For me, this is a great week for MME. I love it.
Yes.
Sets, all kinds of different things. I'm interested in that. Ross said, is it Siwoo at 89 or Spawn at 99? Maybe it's both. You never know what you need this week. And this is kind of an interesting one too, because everyone's laughing when they see Spawn at 9,900. But you got to remember, third doesn't necessarily mean the same when it's very similar guys around him, like 7th and 3rd. It's not that far in price and difference. And also, it is almost $3,000 difference from Scotty. Like, what more do you want? They make Scotty 13.9, and then you get the full 4K difference. It's not like they priced him 10.7, and you had to think about that. I know it's still a ridiculous price, but you do have to remember that. And I want to bring this one up because I think this is important to talk about. So there's going to be variance on projections when the dry run's done on a Tuesday afternoon versus when you do it. But we wouldn't suggest you're building your lineups till tomorrow night probably, or tomorrow late afternoon, whenever you do your lineups. I'm just saying, the point being, it'll change. You'll want to have the best numbers possible. You'll want to run it as a legit dry run. We're not trying to finagle it to be like, well, if this, then that.
Yeah.
I will say, like last week, somebody asked me about this and I talked about it. I did a optimizer video for Mastermind, and I was going through my process, showing off Saber, trying to show how I use it. I did run a dry run last week, Hoop, against AM PM, because if I know I'm going all in on that pretty much, I went 80% or so, right? In the $5 150 max, I had 120 lineups. 120 lineups I went with AM PM. I kind of wanted to see, what does the AM PM dry run look like, because I still didn't change anything else. I just said, if people were to go all in, what type of line? I was trying to do like game theory within an edge within an edge, like I talk about. And that to me was that. But typically we're doing it on a Tuesday just to look at it and then roll it out from there, correct?
Yeah, it provides talking points, gets you. It's good for like roster construction, because a lot of times you can see the type of builds that you're going to get. Like these Scotty Rory teams are not going to change all that much come Wednesday night or Thursday morning. They're going to look pretty darn similar. The names might change, but the type of salary allocation is not going to change all that much. These are the builds that you're likely going to get Wednesday, Thursday if you rerun, unless something crazy happens. Like right now, Sabres projections really like Tony Finau in this 9K range. If we drop this number down to 60 instead of 64.88, well, guess what? It's not going to like Tony Finau as much. It's just going to go to Wyndham Clark more. So it gives you a good idea of what the builds are going to look like. It's really good talking point, I think, for the show. It gets us on the path of thinking, like, what do we need to do this week? What sort of builds do we want to avoid? What sort of builds do we want to be on? So it will change a little bit, but like for this week, I don't think the Scotty Rory type stuff's going to change all that much.
Yeah, and I also think it's good because I always talk about this, but it's not just what you see others are doing, it's what you see others are not doing. And that's why we're trying to give you those concepts and ideas. Like, well, it's interesting that we're not seeing this. We know why the Scotty Rory one's popping up, and we're not loving that, because then there's different things and reasons that you need a lot more things to happen to go your way, versus some of the other similar lineup patterns that you're not seeing within. Like with Rory, you're seeing a 9K guy. With Scotty, you're not. Can we make that work? With Scotty, you're always seeing an 8K guy. You can just play 5.7s. You could even play 5.7s and leave some money if you want. Like, there's little things like that you can do to get different. And I think that's why it's important to always look in and make sure you have an optimizer. One should note, if you do want to get an optimizer over at ShipItNation.com with the partnership with SaberSim, the best value is still on. The $129 a month is basically the exact same thing you get over at Saber, and then our content for $30 more. That's kind of how that one plays out. But you can get it for as little as $99. That was always our goal, to be able to give you less than $100. That's $99, includes SaberSim that hoops on with 150 lineups, our projections, our ownership. And if you go to our X account at ShipItNation, you'll see a lot of the success. I said it on there today. Like, if you're not with us for PGA DFS at the very least, you're definitely behind. Go look at the shout out to our guy D13 Joe. I forget the exact username, but D13 Smith, I want to say maybe. Anyway, he took down like 70K by winning first, second, fifth, seventh, eighth in the showdown streets this past week. And so congrats to them. That was awesome. But just your note here too, Hoop. I saw another one. Quick note. I want to talk about this one. Kirk Kitayama was so bad last week. Victor Hovland missed 4 cuts and came 36th before he won. Like, he's not saying the same class. Just that's the tricky part about that.
Especially in this field. I did want to touch on one thing, because I got a pretty big announcement coming in Thursday for Thursday show. We're doing the Thursday MLB first show, opening day. Myself, Title, G Rising will be on, and you're the marketing guy. I'll let you handle that.
So it's going to be the giveaway, right? We talk about we've got the $9.99 giveaway is happening on Thursday. So you got to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. Got to make sure you're there. Make sure you're involved. We are going to be giving away. You don't have to be there for the show if you can't make it. We'd love for you to, but it'll be set up with something on X. So that's why I said follow us at ShipItNation. They'll bring it up on the show. They'll give some time for it to play out. We'll have a quick turnaround on it, but that will be the $9.99 package that includes the SaberSim with our stuff, where you can do up to 150 lineups, late swap, baseball's coming back, NBA's still rolling, all the other sports that we've got. And go ahead, Oop, because I know you talked about this a ton, but I was just Rio in Arizona talking about baseball coming back, and he was saying the same thing. Like with baseball, this is the way to go. Like, you're getting the stacks you need. You can adjust it the way you want it. Just everything you need is right there under one roof.
Yeah, like their product is phenomenal. Obviously, SaberSim, and when you pair it with ShipItNation, it's even better. But maybe that's the way. Maybe that's the way we'll kick off the baseball season. Hoop and G Rising in the same location doing a safety meeting. That could potentially happen on Thursday. We'll see. He did reach out and wanted some new gear, so maybe we'll make something happen, or at least a video. We'll get a video in the Discord of me partaking in a G Rising safety meeting. But for baseball optimizer, this is by far the best. Like, there's just no doubt about it. You can go right in here. So you have all the players obviously by position, but we know baseball's obviously all about stacking. You can go right in here and say, you know what, I really like Atlanta Braves. I want 10% of my teams to be Atlanta Braves 5-man stacks, not all stacks. We want to get to 5-man. So for DK, you want to stack 5, give me 10% Atlanta, give me 10% San Fran. And then I can go in here, unclick all this, just give me 5 3s, 5 2s, 5-mans, run it. You are getting super competitive lineups with like one click. Lineups that could potentially win GPPs, and you're in a really, really good spot. So I love SaberSim for MLB. It's literally by far unbeatable. And like I said, you pair it with ShipItNation, it's the combination to have this MLB season. So we'll be doing a lot of screen sharing on that show Thursday as well. So we'll be giving away the winner, announcing the winner, and then we'll be doing a ton of screen sharing here on Saber with our projections, which I think are second to none.
SaberSim and ShipItNation combination domination. Look at that one. You get those two together, you're all set to roll. Throw your favorite 6K guys in the chat, or who you think others want to be on. I'm going to look at DGen's notes over on the site, and I'll pull that up. And then Hoop, I don't know if you didn't love it earlier, but now that you sort of went through it and look at a little bit of a deep dive here, is there at least 2 or 3 that stand out for you?
Well, one thing I definitely wanted to point out on our dry run is we virtually get nothing down here. So we got 4%. Ryan Fox isn't even in. Wait, what's his price tag? So Ryan Fox, we get 4% Ryan Fox. We get 2 lineups with Fisk, 5% Wallace, 4% Meisner, 1 Adam Hadwin, 3 Kevin Roy lineups, 4% Potgeider, and a couple other scraps down here at the bottom. So we're getting literally nothing. And I think that's going to be the case this week, where the ownership is very, very low on these guys down here, just not appealing. Yeah, the Fishburne thing I'm fine with. Meisner we kind of talked about. Justin Lauer. Yeah, I've been playing this Kevin Roy. I don't mind him. Don't mind Potgieter. I don't know. I definitely got to dig a little deeper in the 6K range. I mean, I'll play some, but I am definitely not thrilled with the 6K range. There's just not a ton that I like.
Let me see here too. I want to see the Chucky Hoffman. Are people playing Chucky Hoffman this week? Kenny talked about him.
He is 3% in SaberSim.
Thursday, Friday, God can get roasty hot with approach. Prefers strong fields. So that's a couple of the notes for Chucky Hoffman. What's his setup lately? Miscut here a couple of years ago. Miscut 25th, 54th. Not the best out there. My boy A-Train, I got to bring this up. I didn't see these TikToks. I miss you, man. But it says, what are your thoughts on docking Ben Griffin's projection due to lack of focus while posting TikToks? The thing is, the reason you have to dock his projection is not due to TikToks. It's because he's playing, I think, 12 weeks in a row. And if you haven't heard, and obviously the sarcasm in my voice, you can't ever play anything more than 6 weeks of golf in a row, even if you're young, old, doesn't matter, on the PGA Tour, and possibly have a good result. So when you get up to this many, that's the problem. And
what are the subjects of the TikToks? Are they like golf related TikToks? Because then I'm not concerned. But if it's something else, then maybe we have a talking point. But we need
to it at this point. Now I got to go find this out. Potgieter. Do you like any Potgieter here?
Yeah, I'd be fine with Will. I do think he's a guy that people will play down here. There's only a few, so I mean I don't mind him. Yeah,
really, probably fine by the way, coming in off 3 straight miscuts. So
yeah.
Maybe it flips on 4. Maybe 4 is his magic number.
Could be. Definitely could be.
You guys aren't even in the thing yet. Fishburne, people want to know. Let me see what Fishburne. What do we got for the Fishburne notes? I don't have it on the screen, but just to note it here. Easier scoring conditions, good T10 percentage, consistent but doesn't get a ton of birdies, and Lego head. We got Lego head on there as well. His recent stuff, I usually play a bit of them, but 28th last week, he's been off and on. The miscuts have not been mixed in with very good results. So it's like it hasn't really been like a boom bust thing either. Missed the cut here last year, 150 to 1 odds and worse. Just not much going on when it comes to that. What else? Springer bomber narrative. Do you have any interest in Hayden Springer?
No.
Mediocre results at best lately, but obviously it's a guy that's capable. Let me see what we got for the notes for old Hayden Springer. Strong on long courses, good in round 1, struggles in round 2. Requests tournament winnings in Bass Pro gift shop, Bass Pro Shop gift card. Sorry, and gets paid in that. So yeah, I don't see too much with these guys. I think these are the guys that just of note that I was mentioning earlier. These will not be popular plays at all, but I'm saying this is where when people start clicking buttons down there, they're going to need a lot to go right because they're going to be like, okay, I can play David Skins. He was good here last, whatever they want to say. He can make birdies, whatever it might be. But now you still need Scotty and Rory and whatever else you need to go all your way. That's where it just gets pretty tricky. So I would note that on that. Kenny said he likes Chuck Hoffman, hasn't lost with his irons in 3 months. Let's see how Chuck Hoffman not losing with his irons has done. 54th, 25th, miscut. But before that, way back when, he did have a 5th place. So, got to have a lot more to go with that. So we'll see. Danny Walker has been brought up a few times here now. So Danny Walker, what did he do? It was like 2 weeks ago when he got 6th there at the Players.
It is wild though with like Hoffman, how like if he's ever playing well, he's just like straight to the top of the leaderboard. Like he's just like dusting everyone. There's like no in between. It's crazy. If he's playing well, he's at the top like for a couple rounds, and then obviously disappears.
Yeah, that is what I usually see as well. Is there anybody else in the 6K range that you want to talk about?
Norlander, he was 16th last week. Like he's had a couple decent finishes lately. Chandler Phillips at 65. I think he was playing well until like the last round, I believe, last week. Made the cut, finished 42nd. He's made 4 out of 5 cuts. Like, yeah, I could play him at 6,500. I don't mind Chandler Phillips.
Just depends what you need. I see like 0 upside, but it's, miscuts mixed in with 49, 60 for his made cuts are like 42nd, 61st, 49, 45th here last year. I know another thing, I know we don't have it up on the screen. If you just highlight, you don't have to go to it, but if you highlight over PGA for a second at the top on our site there, Hoop, and just show the value report. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but shout out to our guy Lee Aldrich. Want to give him some big ups here as well. The value report every single week is free. And you can go look at it right now. There's 6 plays in there that he's written up, and he puts it, good detail, how he gets to them in the course fit rankings, all that stuff and more. And he talked about Chad Ramey. I'll just give one there, he's like Phillips, who you just talked about, but with upside. He's got all the same missed cuts, but then he's got a 26th and the 34th. And then you look here last year, and he was 17th. And then if you go read Lee's notes, he's also one of the best putters on these greens. So just little things like that. Does it mean it's going to come through? No, but like Hoop and I are always talking about, letting you know, there's going to be no ownership on these guys anyway. So if you're taking a shot on these guys, I prefer that boom bust. Like 17th would play very nicely if he could round that out from last year. Not saying he can or will, but just saying he's had some upside lately or recently in a couple other events. And that's a guy that you could throw into your MME pool and just take a shot on regardless of what the numbers are telling you. You just don't need to put him and then automatically put Scotty and Rory. You can put him and then still build a pretty good lineup. I think that's another way to look at it.
The most disrespectful price tag. Oh man, it's a tough week for that. It definitely is. I'm gonna say, I usually don't do this, but I'm gonna take a guy coming off a miscut for the most disrespectful price tag. To me, I think it's Nick Taylor. I just think he's much better than 7,500 in this field. Like when you start stacking up against the rest of the field, he missed the cut. It was at the Players. You can probably give him the pass for that. Like outside of that, he's been pretty good. Like I just feel like Nick Taylor at 7,500, it's a disrespectful price tag in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't hate that call actually. And that's what I would say too. We've had so many conversations about this, and we're only 50 minutes in, so I don't mind spending a few minutes at the end. But like the miscut, you saw, nobody really goes back and digs into it. I did a call last night with a guy talking about some NASCAR DFS, and he was explaining the same thing. He's like, dude led the race for 150 laps and then crashed, and everyone's like, oh, he sucks. Yeah. It's like, who knows what happened? The tail got whipped out, whatever it might be. All of a sudden, the dude's out of the race. Nobody goes back and it's like, but he crushed for 150 laps. He sucks now because he didn't get the points they needed in DFS. When these guys are out of it, some of them on Sundays are just trying out shots for randomness. I think the talk was in Discord yesterday. Shout out to my dude Bader Bear. We always go back and forth a little bit, but I've known him forever, so I can get along with him that way a little bit more than others, or I feel comfortable with it that way. But, so is this a tune-up for Scotty and Rory? It's like, sure, if they're sucking on after Saturday, they might be tuning up on Sunday for what's next. And if they don't do well this week, they're most certainly going to tell you that, oh, it's kind of just a tune-up, just feeling for it. Yeah. But they came here to win. Yeah. And if they're in contention, they're going to win. They're going to play to win. So it's like, maybe that's a round 4 thing where you're like, okay, now they may just go off the hinges here. But also, we know guys like Siwoo Kim who just fired every pin. That can go really bad. It can go really good. It can break the slate and nuke it completely. So all that stuff is what you got to think about when you're going into it. Hoop always, you don't know the Canadian boys story? Hoop loves Canadians, man. That's his thing.
All my favorite golfers are somehow Canadian. So it's just it's in my heart. There's nothing I can do.
He's been in Canada since before he could drink in America. So I mean, he has memories of that as well, like good Canadian memories. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I can hop the border in a matter of 25 minutes. I can be over.
No pause, Kenny. He's admitted it, man. He loves them. That's his thing. We'll just keep running it.
Well, we'll replace the word boys with golfers, and we'll be all set.
He doesn't like it now. You got under his skin now, Kenny. Matthias Schmid, what's his price this week? I'm just looking at a couple more things here. Right quick. Stephen Fisk is 6,900. I know it was a hole-in-one last week. Again, deep dive will show you it was kind of that shot, but he's also had some other good results.
Yeah, 7K for Schmitty.
Where was I just looking at him at? Because 28th, 6th, and 18th in his last 3, and 21st here last year. I mean, that's interesting there. Johnny Vegas, some people like, I don't really love him either, but yeah, Stephen Fisk popped up a little bit on the numbers that I was looking at here. And then also another guy down here. I was trying to think about who it was, but can't find him now. I don't have too much else, but anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? We got baseball coming back. We showed you guys the promos. You can go check it out. There's just a ton of good stuff going on. We did also, I will say this, my final piece, spent a lot of time with a lot of pros in Arizona and talking about a logo contest. And we talked about making sure you get the SHIPIT Nation avatar and all the stuff that other sites are doing and have promos and things like that. I think we got something pretty exciting that we're working on. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it because we're going to kind of be like gamified, if you will. Not going to give away all the details because they're not solidified yet, but a lot of money, a lot of memberships, and a lot of games and fun on the line. Like we said, when we want to do a logo contest, we want it to be so that you can tell your dog you love them and your family, but you don't need to put them on DraftKings too. You can have a picture on your desk as you're making your lineups. You got to change the avatar. It will be official, but it will be awesome. And I think it's going to be really exciting. The idea that we came up with is just how much money we're going to light on fire for this one. Hoop, that's going to be the question. We'll decide, but I think it's going to be fun. I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, love the initial concepts, the rough draft, and we'll have that all out pretty soon, and we're excited for it. I think the community is going to be excited for it, and it's going to be a pretty big thing. I mean, we're going to do a lot of content around it, so excited for that. And then obviously make sure you tune in Thursday afternoon, 12 Eastern, breaking down the MLB slate. Like I said, myself, Title, G Rising, kicking off the MLB season. As I said a few minutes ago, the partnership with SaberSim for MLB is going to be phenomenal. Their product is second to none in all sports, but man, the baseball product is so good. So very excited for that. And yeah, that's 12 Eastern on Thursday. All our golf content will get up nice and early. Some of it's already up, the value report, like we touched on. So yeah, check it out. Love to have you get in the Discord. Very active, friendly Discord, good spot to be. So let's have a big week.
Yeah, maybe Celinda too. Another guy that you could play down there. Definitely, like I said, there's going to be those options. Just don't feel that if you're playing these low-owned guys or these lower price guys, I should say, they'll be both low-owned and low-priced. Make sure you commit to them, right? If that means it's your $100 single entry and you're playing them, play them if you want. If you're feeling good about them, you don't have to only play them in a lottery or only play them in a single entry. Play them where you want, but don't force yourself into, because I played a cheap guy, immediately Rory and Scotty or something along those lines. You could look at your lineup overall, compare it, be comfortable with what you're putting in, see what you get out, play it from there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This should be a really fun week, but we're going to definitely have all our content up sooner than later. I'll be back on the Mayo Show tomorrow. Tune in on Thursday, like Hoop said, for that. If you want to get signed up, there's a ton of good deals right now over at ShipItNation.com. Thank you guys for watching. That's going to do it for this one. For Hoop, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it.